The NFL draft is now in the rearview mirror, and all eyes turn to a summer that promises to present a very unique set of challenges for NFL teams. Howie Roseman made it very clear that he's not done adding talent to the roster after injecting a sense of youth to the team through the draft period, so here are 5 remaining free agents who may be of interest to the Philadelphia Eagles. Before we get into it though guys, a massive thank you for all of the support you continue to show this channel. We are so close to 20,000 subscribers and we would love for you to join our community. So if you do enjoy this content, make sure you hit that red button and turn notifications on so you know when we upload our content. And as always, you can get your daily dose of Philadelphia sports coverage from myself and all of our writers over at phillysportsnetwork.com. The first name on this list is someone that we have gone over before in a video similar to this, cornerback Prince Amukamara. He's 30 years old now, and he's no stranger to Eagles fans, but neither is the fact that their secondary has needed a strong foundation to allow its young players to marinate for quite some time. Darius Slay solves half of that problem, but if there are any remaining doubts over players like Sidney Jones, then Amukamara is the ultimate insurance policy. At 6 foot, 216 pounds, Amukamara is of similar build to Byron Jones. He's physical at the line of scrimmage and is an absolute technician in coverage, like Byron Jones, rarely being caught off guard by players and always a threat to peel off his assignment and make a play. But more importantly, he's a threat in trail coverage and has some deep speed to his game as well, something that has evaded this secondary for quite some time. In 2019, he was the 4th least targeted cornerback in the league of targets over 500 and allowed only 1 reception in every 14.5 coverage snaps, which is really good for a year which many considered to be a down season after a 2018 where he accumulated 22 passes defensed and 3 interceptions. But the tape says it was a damn good year. The Eagles may need a contingency plan at cornerback, and Amukamara somehow hasn't still been signed and may be their best option to do so. Talking of familiar faces, there may be none more familiar on this list than Vinnie Curry, a man who has spent the majority of his career with the Eagles and whose return to the team after a hiatus in Tampa Bay was quiet on the surface, but then, out of nowhere, there was just this explosion of production. Curry amassed 4 of his 5 sacks in the final 5 games of the season and would end up tying TJ Watt for pressure rate according to PFF, getting to the quarterback on 16.8% of snaps and ranking 5th in that metric out of 99. After playing in 55% of the snaps during the team's Super Bowl run, that number dropped to 38% in 2019. But it's clear that Curry is still a value to the Eagles, both in terms of on-field production and leadership away from it. Now 31 years old, the Eagles know Curry better than most, and depth is very thin at the defensive end position, even with the versatility of names like Malik Jackson. Bringing him back makes so much sense to keep the pressure off names like Josh Sweat and Sharif Miller, and more importantly, allow Derek Barnett to thrive. He has always been a player that can almost bake the cake, get it all done, but just struggles to put the cherry on top, almost paving the way for others around him to thrive. And I think the Eagles are in a really impressive spot, a really strong position to facilitate another year of that kind of play. Next up is offensive tackle James Hurst, a former backup of the Baltimore Ravens. Hurst would get to reunite with Marty Mornhinweg after being released this offseason in this hypothetical scenario. Hurst can play both guard and tackle, something the Eagles have coveted in their offense for quite some time now, and allowed 1 sack on 194 snaps last year. He actually started all 16 games in 2017 at left guard. He started 19 at that position in total, 16 at left tackle, 7 on the other end of the bookshelf, and 2 as an extra tight end, which I think is pretty good going. The 6'5", 310-pound lineman is actually suspended for the first quarter of the 2020 season due to violating the league's PED policy, which isn't ideal, but the good news for the Eagles here is they don't need him right away. They're not signing him to come in and be an immediate starter. They ideally need a replacement for Halapoulivaati Vaitai, and although names like Prince Tega Wanogho and Jordan Mailata are intriguing options, there's no one with NFL experience ready to step up in a pinch as Vaitai did so often. And there's a unique problem facing the Eagles this year in the way that OTAs and training camp just might not be the same. If someone like Mailata or Tega Wanogho needs those camp reps to develop at the NFL level and work against NFL talent, workouts at home, they're just not going to cut it. That first jump, if it's a regular season game, is going to be chaos, and it might lead to the Eagles being in a spot without an experienced backup who can rely on what he's done in previous years. Hurst should be cheap, cheerful, young at 28 years old, and available because, well, no one wants a suspended player. and he brings enough versatility to warrant at least examining the potential fit. Alright, penultimately we've got Isaiah Crowell, and this name might cause a few people to raise their eyebrows. The Eagles have their next star running back in Miles Sanders, I get that, but the committee behind him lacks a certain punch, okay? Boston Scott is very much a dual threat. We know what Michael Warren brings to the table, but he's an unproven, undrafted free agent, as is Elijah Holyfield. He's unproven to some extent. The addition of Corey Clement is cool, but they're still missing that Jordan Howard and Jay Ajayi or LeGarrette Blount level tenacity that you don't really want to burden Miles Sanders with. You want him to allow him to be Miles Sanders and get someone else to take over those third down, those short yardage situations. If Crowell's recovered from the torn Achilles he suffered in May last year, he'd be a great fit for that role. He averaged 4.8 yards per carry in 2018, rushing for 685 yards and 6 touchdowns, bringing his 5-year total to 3,803 yards and 27 scores. Now, this would go against Howie's new injury-free mindset, with Crowell suffering injuries in 2018 as well before the Achilles tear, but he didn't miss a single game in the years before that, and it's not like he'd be coming in with a massive workload. Crowell could be a low-risk, potentially high-reward signing that packs a punch and still runs extremely hard. He's willing to bowl into defenders just as quickly as he is to try and evade them, and if that burst and explosiveness is still there, this move would be an excellent one. And finally, linebacker Deron Lee, another former Jet who has never really lived up to the reputation as a former first-round pick. In 3 years with the Jets, he had 241 tackles, 11 sacks, 7 quarterback hits, and 11 passes defensed. He was then traded to the Chiefs last year, where he won a ring, but as a rotational player, he only played in 14% of defensive snaps, as opposed to the 57% he saw on special teams, and was even benched by the time the Super Bowl rolled around. However, he's only 25 years old and is absolutely terrifying as a raw athlete, and the Eagles, as we know, have put a real focus on getting athletes on their team. I mean, their whole draft class is stacked with them. This guy ran a 4.47 40-yard dash, has a 35.5-inch vertical, and stands at 6'1", 232 pounds. Eagles are clearly all about developing talent at linebacker, and it's not like the position is flooded with star power right now. If there's one team in the NFL that Lee has a legitimate shot to walk into and win a starting role, it's this one, and that bodes very well for the iron sharpens iron mentality that Doug Peterson always works hard to instill every summer. At worst, he's a camp body that doesn't make the cut or can vouch for a special teams role, and at best, he may have some remaining fuel in the tank to give Nate Gary or TJ Edwards a run for their money. But what do you think of this list, guys? Let me know down in the comments section below. Who would you sign on the remaining free agent market? From myself, Liam Jenkins. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Liam Jenkins PSN. I'll see you soon.